Veterans Day by Cheryl Dyson. On Veterans Day, we honor all who answer to a service call. Soldiers young and soldiers old, fought for freedom, brave and bold. Some have lived while others died, and all of them deserve our pride. We're proud of all the soldiers who kept thinking of red, white, and blue. They fought for us and all our rights. They fought through many days and nights. And though we may not know each name, we thank all veterans just the same.
Hi, I'm Rhett Young,
I'm Gary Bimbo.
and we just want to say thank you for all the things you have done for us and all your service. We are just really super grateful for it. Thank you.
Sir, thank you for your time.
My privilege, my pleasure.
Yes, sir. So, can you tell us about your background and the connection to Chester County?
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in the Sweet Lips area, about 9 miles south of east of Henderson. Raised there, graduated Chester County High School in 1976. I know that's a long time, long before you were born. Raised on a farm, and my connection still is my oldest daughter actually lives in Henderson. She's married to one of your deputy sheriffs there in town, Dusty Walker. Um, I still own my great grandmother's farm out in Sweet Lips, along with my brother and sister on my what was my dad's and my grandmother's farm. And my brother and sister still both live in Chester County. And even though I have been gone from Chester County since 1976, I've been a subscriber to the Chester County Independent during my military career to keep up with everything's going. I voted my whole 30 years in the Air Force while I was in all of the elections in Tennessee and in Chester County. And so I still, like I said, I get back there. Well, now I live in East Tennessee, right outside of Chattanooga. But even during all my military, when I lived in the Washington D.C. area, we'd come down two to three times a year to back to Chester County.
Very interesting. Have you always wanted to join the military?
Well, when I was going through high school, I wasn't what you might call one of the top students in my class. So I did find that I knew there was a great big world outside of Henderson, Tennessee, and I wanted to see some of it. And when the Air Force recruiter came to the Chester County High School, got me very interested. And I went and took the ASVAB test, and I thought, well, Chester County is a great place to be from, big world out there, and I wanted to see a little bit of it. So when I graduated high school in May, I did work. There used to be a factory down called Salant. It's one of the old factory buildings. It's still down there. It's not a factory anymore. And I did work there for a couple of months, and I thought, oh my goodness, factory work is not really something that I want to do. So I joined the Air Force, left in July 21st of 1976, and I've never looked back.
Yes, sir. So, what is the Air Force Community College? Because we're aware you attended there, and how is it different from the academy?
Okay, well, the Air Force, the community college of the Air Force is it is an associate's degree program that allows enlisted people, when they come in the Air Force, to get a 2-year degree in their chosen specialty. For me, I went in as a communications guy. I worked my first 4 years in the Air Force. I was a ground communications guy before I started flying. And I ended up completing all the requirements and getting a degree in information system technology. Now, the Air Force Academy, on the other hand, takes graduating high schools, seniors. They require congressional appointment. And the Air Force Academy, you do it basically. It's a 4-year college program, and whatever you're chosen, and you graduate with a bachelor's degree in whatever your chosen major is. And at the end of that, you're commissioned as a second lieutenant, an officer as a second lieutenant, and then you are assigned to whatever job that you end up going in. With a lot of pilots, navigators, or other rated officer positions. And then you have and then you go out and go through your training and get through your go to your next assignment and base as a rated officer.
What are your some of the favorite places you went to, and like aircrafts you have flown?
Well, let's see. When I retired from the Air Force, I retired from the Air Force in July of 2006 after 30 years. And my final country count was 124 countries. I've been to 5 out of the 6 continents. The only thing I didn't get to go was to Antarctica. Favorite places? Oh my goodness! I've been able to fortunate to see a lot of what they refer to as some of the wonders of the world: the Great Wall of China, the Houses of Parliament in London, the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Some of my favorite places were I really, if I had to pick one, I always said if I got exiled from the United States, it would probably be to go down to maybe Australia or New Zealand. Great country, beautiful place, pretty laid back. But Cape Town, South Africa was another great place that I visited. I got to go visit a lot of places that were certainly vastly different than the United States. So it always gave me the opportunity when I would come back, when I would go traveling and come back to the United States, that it left an impression on me that how fortunate we are as American citizens to have all the things that we have.
Yes, sir.
What does a communication specialist do?
Okay. Well, you asked me about my aircraft. Let me go back to that. My first line assignment was what's called the Strategic Air Command Airborne Command Post. I did that for 4 years out in Omaha, Nebraska. And then when I got reassigned to Andrews, I flew almost every aircraft. It was VC-135s, VC-137s, Gulfstream C-20s, and then the last aircraft I flew was the VC-25A, which was the Air Force One aircraft. Now, what does a comm specialist do? Well, an airborne comm specialist, they handle, when they fly as an active duty air crew member on an Air Force airframe. And what I did, they handle all of the voice, video, and data communications from the airplane down to the ground and back. As an example, and that was depending on who we're flying, whether it was the president, the vice president, the secretary of state, secretary of defense, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they've got some pretty stringent communications requirements that they have to be in constant contact. My role when I was the chief comm on Air Force One, whatever the president wanted, he could pick up the phone and said, "Hey, give me Jace Alexander," and then it was my job to find that person, whoever he wanted to talk to. And once I established that communications and made sure that they could hear me or I could hear them, and then I would put the president in the call. Probably one of our biggest productions on Air Force One was what they call head of state calls. The president would call up, or we'd come on the plane, and because a lot of times when we were flying, we would have a window of opportunity that he needed to reach out to another foreign head of state, whether it was the president of Russia, the prime minister of England. And what they would do, they'd say, okay, the president needs to talk to the prime minister or the president of Russia between 10 and 11 o'clock. And then what we would do, as soon as we got into that window, I would reach out to the White House Situation Room. We would put 2 communications links, calls down into the conference bridge. We would get the stenographers, the interpreters, because if the foreign head of state didn't speak English, we had to have an interpreter, and then all the people that did all the recording. And then once we got all the stars aligned, I would say, okay, put the president of Russia on. And when I would get him on the line and make sure that he could hear me and I could hear him, then I would say, okay, sir, please stand by for the president. And then I would put the president in the call. I'd say, Mr. President, the president of Russia is on the line, give him a call. And of course, I always had the opportunity to sit there and listen to all of the calls, which got to be pretty interesting sometimes.
Yes, sir. That definitely sounds pretty cool.
It really does.
Yeah. And we also control all of the internet and secure video teleconferencing off the aircraft. And the pecking order from the aircraft from the front to the back, the president was up in the front, and then there was the senior staff, the regular staff, and then the visitors. So when people needed, whether it was internet access or whatever type of communications or data information they needed, we could control what went on and off the airplane.
That's super cool. While Chief of Communications for Air Force One, what were some of the charges you helped make, or changes you helped make?
Well, when I first got assigned to the Air Force One crew, I was the first person to come in and take over that job directly as the chief. So I saw that when I first got there was no what I would call any wideband capability, and there was no direct television capability. And so I had started lobbying to try to get some of that stuff done, and the costs were pretty high. I got shot down a couple of times, and then I'm sure everybody's heard of 9/11. So the Air Force One was flying on 9/11. I was not on the aircraft. My deputy was on the aircraft that day because I had just flown Ronald Reagan's old Air Force One aircraft out to California. Wow. So I wasn't back in time to take the mission, which left on Monday the 10th, came back on Tuesday the 11th. So, but after 9/11, I always termed that a non-nuclear stressed environment when everything just went in the tank. We found out what worked. We found out what didn't work. All of our military systems worked very well. All the commercial systems that we had on the airplane did not work so well. So right after that, I'd actually had a 5-year plan. It got shrunk down to about 18 months. And one of the first things we did, because we got money, the defense, they call it the Defense Emergency Relief Fund, provided me with over $128 million to do what I needed to do on the aircraft. And the first thing I did was we put a prototype phased array antenna on the airplane that gave us direct TV, because one of the shortfalls on 9/11 was there was no satellite TV. Not only there was no satellite TV, there was no internet, there was no email access. And so information, while the military systems that we had on the plane, and the president was able to talk to everybody that he needed to talk to that day, there was still a lot of other information sources that he couldn't draw into because of the limited connectivity. So we spent from right after 9/11, and it took us up till March of '03. So it took us about 18 months, and we spent $128 million. We put a new wideband connection on the airplane that gave us internet, email, direct TV, and secure video teleconferencing. Now, and we could do sort of like what we were doing. Of course, Zoom and Google Meet and Skype and all that wasn't really that big back then. It has since progressed and become much more proliferated a lot more. So now, what back then we had a 5 megabytes down, 1 megabyte up to the satellite. That's hardly good enough in today's environment. Plus, I still work with the Air Force One organization to improve, and we've got them doing now about 120, 130 megabytes down and about 80 megabytes up. So we literally brought a lot of wideband capability during my time on the aircraft, or as part of the Air Force One organization, and it worked out pretty well.
That's a lot of time and a lot of money, but you made some amazing changes.
Sure.
Final question: what does Veterans Day mean to you?
Well, Veterans Day is certainly a time to honor the people that have served. Unlike Memorial Day, we pay attention during Memorial Day for the folks that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this country. But Veterans Day is a time and not so much for me, because during my 30 years, I was able to serve with some of the best people this country ever has to offer. And it's just that time for us to sit back and take a look and honor the people that have served, because a lot of veterans, especially our World War II vets, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat and had a little bit of a cold. I'm a member of the VFW. We've got one, I think he's 97, 98 years old. It comes to our meetings every month, who literally, there's a lot of people. I go out and I hear people talk about it, the freedom of speech and our Second Amendment rights. I said, well, those didn't come cheap. There's a lot of people that have served, fought, and died for that. And I think this is our one time of the year that we get to pay a little of respect and homage to our veterans that have served. I mean, I was just very fortunate that I got to serve with some of the best people this country has to offer. And people ask me, well, if you had to go back and change your military career, would you do anything different? And I can honestly say I could go back to 21 July 1976 and I would not change a single thing. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to go and do everything that I did. So it was people, you get thanked a lot for your service. And I always tell people it was my pleasure and privilege. And my two daughters also joined the Air Force after I had retired. And I wrote each one of them a letter stating, I said, it is a high honor when you put on this uniform, and you got to remember when you raise that right hand and take that the oath of enlistment or the oath of office, that you're sworn to protect and defend this country. That should never ever be taken lightly. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. That's very awesome, and thank you again for the sacrifices you've made and just the bravery. We thank you truly.
Sir, thank you for protecting the country.